Good morning, everyone who is here, and good morning, those who are watching on YouTube. Wish you could be here. This is our college information series. We're still in the holistic admission section, and we are going to be talking about the fun and exciting extracurricular activities, which also include things like community service, summer programs, and stuff like that. So this is our big extracurricular session. And this is one of my favorites. I actually like it. So we're going to start with a true false question for our crowd here in the room and just drop it in the chat. True or false? Come on. I'm trying to click. Oh, there. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. My interests must be reflected on my high school transcript. True or false? Drop that in the chat. Let's see what we come up with. We've got two votes. Our votes are false. Let's see if that's correct. Why, yes, you've got that right. You're in. Oh, we got a vote for true. Okay, so no, your interests do not need to be reflected on your transcript. We're going to look at all those interests of extracurriculars mean often things that go on outside the classroom, and the schools want to know a little bit about what you're doing when you're not officially learning. Okay, we got another one. Here we go. Come on. I clicked it. Let me click it again. There we go. This is the one I get asked all the time. I must have whatever that X is, 100 hours, 5 hours, some hours of community service, or colleges will reject me. This is really the, do I need to have community service or do I not have to have community service? And so this is true or false, must have a certain number of hours. And yes, the folks in the chat are correct. False. I don't know why this one is one that people come to me all the time, really worried because they don't have the community service and they think that it has to be a thing. It doesn't have to be a thing unless it's something that you really want to do. We're actually going to look at that in a little bit as well. So that's our true and false section. So when we talk about extracurriculars, we're talking about what you're doing when you're not doing schoolwork. In other words, just how do you spend your time? That includes hobbies. That includes all kinds of things. So when you're not sitting in a classroom, everything is fair game. Even sitting in the classroom, sometimes stuff goes on, but when you're not doing your schoolwork, what are you doing? That's what the whole presentation is about. So I want you to look, I've got two different slides coming up here. And I know we mostly have parents in here. I want you to look through and I want you to pick out and drop in the chat anything you see on here that's going on with your kid in your household, anything. What's going on that you see in this slide? And then I'm going to show you another slide. These are just so many different ideas. What's going on in your world in any of these areas? Anyone got anything? I'll give you a second. And then I'm going to move to slide 2. And if you see something, if something's going on in your household or with your student or with you, and it's not here, put it in there as well. We're just going to look at some of the things. We got to vote for team sports, absolutely. We've got individual sports, so we got a sports group going on right here. And I'm going to go ahead, writing and videography, avid. Yeah. I'm going to flip to the next slide because we've got more, including that middle column. And I want you to take a look at that middle column. I want to actually pull your focus into that taking care of family one because that counts. And a lot of people don't realize that counts, especially if you are someone who needs who can't do all the extra things because you need to help at home. Maybe you're helping putting food on the table. Maybe you're taking care of siblings while parents can work. That matters. And I want to just make sure of that. So any new over here, there's some that as I was making my list and looking around and trying to see beekeeping, gardening, cooking, languages, history day, rock climbing. I mean, there's so many things that you can be doing, and it's basically any interest. And I think we have everything. I have kids that stock trade. There are dog trainers. We have travelers. We have all kinds of stuff here. So, yeah, that's what we got. So now that you have some interests that you've identified, let's go ahead and let's see how to take those interests and level them up. That's what really makes the extracurricular activity something that stands out. So we've got the things that you are interested in, the things you like to do. Then you take it to the next level. So if you're doing something, join a team. I mean, people might like to bicycle. You know what? There's actually teams of bicyclists that go off and they do rides together. Take a class in the thing that you're interested in. Do it live, do it online, study it, get more in depth so you can self-study from books and videos. Oh my gosh, there's a video on everything on YouTube. I've learned that recently. You could find a mentor, someone who is an expert. You can enroll in a summer program. We've got lots of ding dongs. I don't know if Heather, you can flip off the ding dongs. They're in the participant
I will try to figure out how
thing.
to, if I can turn that off.
I don't know if you can hear the ding dongs at home, but we got some people sneaking in and it ding dongs every time, and I forgot to turn it off. So, anyway, carrying on with our leveling up of interest, summer programs, workshops, follow social media influencers. Notice this is a lot of learning. This particular level of leveling up is the student getting more involved in the things they already are doing. And I want to point that out. Remember, we had those two slides of ideas. They're not exhaustive, but they're just ideas. Take those ideas, the things that you love, whether it's crocheting, rock climbing, writing films, whatever you want. Take those and immerse yourself in learning. After you have started to become an expert in your area, you can then get to a level of perfection and deepen. I don't think you ever get to a level of perfection, but you can get to the level of being very knowledgeable and very deep within your extracurricular. So you were on a team, now you can lead a team. You took a class, maybe it was live, maybe it was online. Maybe you're the one who's actually doing that teaching of others, be it younger students, be it your community, be it your family. I actually had a student write about learning about chainmail. It was really interesting. The learning to make, I guess, like a kind of armor, and then talked about teaching a sibling. And that student knocked admissions out of the park, by the way. That was one of their PIQs. And so it was really interesting. You create a guide, create how-to videos. So now you're passing that learning on to others. Be a mentor to a younger student. Attend advanced programs. Maybe they're competitive summer programs, maybe they're programs that are going on during the year. You could create your own workshop. You've already taken the workshops, create the workshops. I love this one. Be a social media influencer. Go on. I had a student who really, really loved taking pictures of cars. Uh, he was really into car shows and things like that. And he's like, yeah, I just take pictures. I said, what do you do with the pictures? He's like, I put them on my Instagram stories. I said, well, your stories disappear. I said, they're only up there for 24 hours. Why aren't you making a portfolio of these cars? And it never occurred to him to take his interest in cars and car photography to another level. So he started to do it. And then he started getting hired because people loved his photos so much that he started getting commission. This was all within the last year. This is a student that is still around. And so this all happened during high school, this just interest in cars, taking pictures, putting those pictures, sharing those pictures, and then suddenly becoming well known in this sort of community that he has become involved in. And I thought that was fascinating to watch. And that came from just an interest in cars. Fascinating what you can do with something that you care about. And so you can take that now even a step further. So, maybe you've done your workshop, you've written a few blogs. Now you can write a book of something. Now you can start a full YouTube channel where you are now the expert in car photography or chainmail or whatever it is that you do. You can, instead of fixing a car, restore a car, bring it to a car show. You liked bees, you're interested in bees, you learned about bees, become a beekeeper. I just bought honey from my local flea market, and they've got a big, huge thing of honey going on there. Sell your honey. Documentaries, workshop series, live and online. Not just your one, but do a whole series. Oh my gosh, you like running? Do a marathon. I mean, take a whole year and train for it. Build a boat, become a drone pilots. We got drone pilots coming out of our ears here at iLEAD because we got such good community college drone programs. And you can do droning for all kinds of stuff, including leading into a career. I find that fascinating. Short stories, apps, get a scuba diver certificate. Things that you like marine biology, dive right in. Become fluent in a second, third, fourth language if that's your thing. Start a community garden. These are the culmination, the passion projects. And I hear a lot about students that like, I have to find a passion project for my college applications. No, you don't go looking for the passion project. The passion project comes and finds you because you're already doing the thing. So it starts early with just the things you like to do, and then you nurture those things. And we've got a lot of parents in the room, and so parents, if you see your student really interested in something, really involved in something, really encourage them to continue that interest. I know that sometimes you have the funding to help, sometimes you don't. That's okay, because YouTube videos are free. you know, Community courses are cheap or free. And so it isn't something that you have to put a lot of money into. In fact, putting a lot of money into something sometimes bounces the opposite direction instead of a student who finds a way, or a family that finds a way to make something happen. And so you don't need a lot of money to get into these passion projects that are based on your own interests. So they also don't have to take up all your time. There's a book called How to Be a High School Superstar, which everyone gets like really irritated at the title because they think it's telling you to do all the things, and it's not. It's telling you how all the things can be done within your normal time. And one of the things they talk about is, can you think of a project that can just be done on a Saturday morning here and there? Like it doesn't have to take over your life either. Done on Saturday mornings, do it on a summer break. It doesn't have to be life consuming unless you want it to be. I have students that are doing things that are life consuming only because it's what they want, but these are also something that can be done a couple Saturday afternoons. Um, there's a lot that you can do. So we're going to try it out. We're going to take a couple of ideas, these interests that students have, things that I've seen: photography, dogs, cars, gardening. So these are things that our kids are doing, that you as a student are doing already. I picked four that are really common. And what we're going to do is we're going to level it up. We're going to see where this student can take it to have it be something significant in a college application. So let's start with these four ideas, and we're going to level it up. We're going to go for a wow. We're going to go with from photography to photography classes. We're going to go for a love of dogs to dog training. I also have students that work in all kinds of dogs. Basic auto repair. You know what? You can actually go to your counselor and say, I would like to take a class at the community college and learn how to fix a car. They have that. We have access to that, and it's free. You like gardening? Community gardens. See what's going on in your neighborhood. There's actually a lot of community gardens already out there. And so, looking at each of these, looking at the text that I have there, certificate programs, tutorials on YouTube, meetups. You can start with your own dog for the dog training. Take your dog. The local parks department have trainings. You don't have to necessarily go to the expensive PetSmart. Is it a Mart for pets, or is it for smart pets? I don't know if you're watching social media and you're watching the PetSmart thing. But you could take your own dog to the local parks department, and it's very inexpensive for training. You can also go to a local training place. You can volunteer at an animal shelter. I think you can get paid to actually walk dogs. You could volunteer to walk dogs. But there's so much to do. The basic auto repair. I don't know. I see cars everywhere. Like, I have a guy that has three cars, and one of them's really old, and he just moves it back and forth across the street for street sweeping. And I wonder what he's doing with it. You know what? Knock on his door. Hey, can I work on your car that seems to be sitting there in the middle of the street constantly? But also find mentors, find other people that love auto repair. There's social media discussion groups. I don't know. Reddit has everything. YouTube has everything. My husband keeps watching how to install car radios. I don't know why. Um, Classes at the community college. Talk to your counselor. In the community garden, once again, classes at the community college. They have classes in horticulture. You can go to a local nursery, see if they have a job, how many tomatoes can you grow? There's so many kinds of tomatoes in so many different colors. You can do a science project on that. So we can easily go for a wow with the things we're already doing. Now, we've gone from learning and entry level involvement into that deepening of the extracurricular activity. Now you're designing a photo gallery. Maybe you've got a specific meaningful project. You can create a gallery with your photos. You can display your work on Instagram, like my car kid, a book that you put on Etsy. I mean, so many different things that you can do now that you've really learned and deepened. You have something more substantial that you can do. Now you've trained dogs, you've gotten used to it. Now we have students doing this right now. You can actually start working on service dog training. They send you a puppy, you start working on training it to become a service dog, and you take it everywhere as if it were a service dog. You can train therapy dogs that work in hospitals. You can actually become part of the volunteer program that does it. The next one, the car restorer. So you've worked on cars, and maybe now it's time to start working on a really fancy one that you might be able to show. That, one of the things we say is with the extracurricular, you kind of want the admission officer to have a name. This is a service dog trainer, the one we're talking about here that has those classes. I remember them. They're the service dog trainer. Oh, this one's the hunger warrior. That was our community garden. Person who loves gardening, community garden, has now started working on food insecurity and things that can be done with that garden. So this one's turning into a community service. So choose a local national organization. Use your skills to donate to those in need. So suddenly we can take these things to a significantly higher and more impressive level. But remember, we're still starting with things you like. We're not inventing anything that looks good. But look at these. Don't they all look really, really good? They're going to make the student shine. And they didn't have to do anything they didn't want to do, and they didn't waste a moment of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three examples. They're real examples of people who I know and who did really well in their college career. They had different. Let's look at them. I'll explain as I go. So let's look at the example. So you know, here's the question to ask as we read through this student's interest. And the question is, did they do these activities out of joy or to impress colleges? So when you look at the student, ask yourself that question. So May's not her real name, and she's from Florida. I actually knew her parent. And she did an internship with a research ecologist in 10th grade and eventually did her own research on stingrays in the Everglades. So she started by volunteering at local conservation organizations and then she was able to do research through them, and then she was able to present and share that research through these organizations that she was very, very involved in. And so she became very well known in this sort of community with where she lived. So then she started moving forward with that. Her interest was stingrays, and the more she learned about it, the more knowledge she had. And so she started volunteering over the summer in the British Virgin Islands, tagging and collecting data. So she's volunteering to do good things based on the things she already knew. And she learned even more and more about marine conservation. She also then decided to learn diving because in order to tag, you've got to dive. And so she also earned multiple certifications while she was doing that. At the same time, she was in regular high school and she was the president of the Ecology Club, of course, which she created herself because it was her interest. They did the beach cleanups, they cleared for invasive species, and they did other events. And so you can see that through that interest and through those activities, she got involved in that before high school. She was really interested. She was already going to things that were marine like. We have an aquarium of the Pacific near me, and I know a lot of students who are just there volunteering because they love being there. And it opens so many doors like it did for this student. But at the same time, she also was involved in school. She was part of her online publication and president of volunteer organizations. She also created a project to collect Halloween costumes for kids who couldn't afford their own. And, you know, this kid knocked it out of the park. I knew her mom, and she was going through the application process at the same time that my son was. So we were all talking at the same time. And this was a kid that was accepted with full rights across the board, and is now a graduate and did a year of marine biology afterwards in the Maldives. So it's really kind of interesting that they then hired her afterwards. So this interest that started before, it went all the way through college and out the other end. And that's kind of what the college is looking for. Who will you be when you get there and where will you go? And they guessed right with her. That interest was real. It was a joy. And it continued all the way through and out of college. So that's kind of how you want to see it. She didn't waste a moment of her time. Here's another student that I know of. The interest was physics. And we can, my question here is how did he level it up? And do you see any signs of resume padding? Or was he doing what he loved? Like when his background is coming out? Is the admission officer saying, huh, this looks like this doesn't look real? Or are they saying, wow, this is really impressive? So this particular one, this is a homeschool student. The first one was not a homeschool student. This one's a more traditional homeschool student. Very, very interested in physics and math and progress really, really quickly. We allow that here at iLEAD. You got a kid that's moving quickly, we'll chase them with you. Try to catch up to them. So he was taking high school math courses at a pretty young age. So he was able to knock quite a few out by the time he got to middle school. It was just an area where he was gifted, and he wanted to keep going. And he exhausted physics and he wanted more physics. And so he approached a professor, not the mom. And this is something that was really important because we are tempted as parents, or if you're here as a student, your parents might be tempted to pick up that phone. I guess we don't pick up the phone anymore, to make that text, send that email to see if they can clear the way for you. I see this all the time. Parent can't do that. This worked because the student sought out the professor and he asked if he could just audit. He had already exhausted the community college. Can I just sit in it? And the professor was so impressed with him while he was sitting in the class that he let him start taking advanced level physics classes in high school. And he was allowed to do it for credit. So think about what's coming out on his transcript. Our real classes from the local, I put UC here. I don't remember if it was UC or CSU, but it was one of them, one of the local four-year colleges. Um, and what was really interesting about this to me was that he loved physics, but he didn't love bio or chemistry. And so he was not pushed to take them. He got his one semester out of the way at a community college for bio and chemistry, and that was enough. Parents were happy, and he was allowed to run wild with physics and the math, the areas that he truly enjoyed. So he didn't have to be well-rounded. He was what we call really, really pointy in the area of his interest. He also went to summer programs. Joe was a lower income student. His parents didn't have the money to send him to the fancy programs. He was actually offered scholarships, and there are a number of free programs sponsored through some of the more selective colleges like MIT, things like that. For a student, you have to apply. But he was accepted and went for free. So there was no extra money spent on this at all. And I want to really express that over and over again. People keep thinking that it is the parents who have the means that send their kids off and the kids get the advantage. But in these examples, none of that is true. These are all things that have been identified by the student themselves, and the student pushed forward and things happened that way. Um, so he not only loved physics, but he played baseball and chess and math circles, and he was also really, really active in his church. So he had other things going on as well. Um, and he's a graduate now from MIT, just to kind of show you what happened. He got accepted everywhere because he followed that love of the specific academic interest, and his parents just let him run with it. Okay, next one. Oops. Give it a click. Okay, so this kid, we're calling him Zeke, but he's actually my kid. This is a description of my kid. And he was very interested in numbers from the age of 3. And in fact, it was really annoying that he was so interested in those numbers because he used to follow us around the house with a piece of paper saying, do this math problem, do this math problem. It was very, very annoying. But he was really introverted. He was not the kind of person that, not like the kid we had before, Joe, who went off to the professor. This student would never have done that, had very, very introverted. So he didn't really participate in the clubs and organizations, but he took every math class available, exhausted them at the high school, and then went on to do them at the community college. So he followed his love of math, um, and he did dual enrollment. And his love of math was recognized by teachers, and he received a math award every year at the high school as well as strong letters of recommendation when he applied. What was really interesting was, like I'm talking about my son, he's very, very introverted, didn't want to join any clubs. But as soon as he started getting recognized in math, um, people started asking him for help. And he started tutoring the students around him. And that was around the time where kids were just getting phones. He also had a phone. And so he had this stack of index cards by his bed. And people would text him, I'm having trouble with this math problem. And he would show how to work the math problem and then text the answer back. You don't need a lot of extroversion to text a solution on how to do a math problem back and forth. from an index card. And so he found ways to make this work. He then started creating study groups because basically all this kid wanted to do was study. That's what he loved. He started study groups, and he came out of his comfort zone by going to the local Starbucks. He was creating the study groups for AP tests, and he became very well known by the students for being the one they go to for help with specifically, well, everything STEM, but he was the study group guru. Um, he also had a required class that required an internship. And he was really interested in college admissions because it was his senior year and he really liked data. And so, through a couple of people, it is okay to go through as a parent. If you have connections, use those connections. There is no shame in that. I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who said, "Come on into our admissions office and do an internship with us for a few weeks." And while he was there, he created a magic Excel formula for them to better figure out their scholarships. So this was all through general interest. He also was in orchestra, and we gave him private music lessons. And what was interesting about him was he is not one of the ones that went to MIT. He went to Reed. He went to a small liberal arts college. But while he was there, because of these, he finally was given the opportunity to really dive into the math, to really get involved in research. And he just graduated with his PhD from Duke University. So he needed to wait to college to get access to the things he needed at a higher level. And then he actually did have, he got into a fancy pants school. So it's all of these examples are through joy. And none of these students wasted a moment of time doing something they didn't love. Every single one of them followed the thing that they love. And that is the most important thing I hope you take away from this, is that you don't need to go chasing the thing. You need to take the thing that you have, the joy of whatever it is you're doing, and bring that to the next level. Then you're going to have a great high school career, and it's going to level you up for college at the same time. Okay. I really love this book. I used it in my class the first year. Too much reading for my class the first year, so I haven't used it past. But I remember one of my students who had come from one of the local like crazy high schools where everybody is being stressed out all the time. And I introduced the book, and she was like, "Oh no, I'm getting away from that. I'm trying to get away from that." No, no, no. This book tells you how to reduce the time. It tells you how to do less and make it more. And so I really enjoy this book. I recommend this book as a way to kind of look at how sometimes when you see people that are really impressive, they're actually not putting this level of effort that everyone thinks you need to have. And they're actually giving themselves more time to fall into things that they love. And so I highly recommend the book. I got some links here too to just some interesting resources. Summer Study in the USA, gooverseas.com has some really interesting things as well. And then we, of course, are always available. There's our email addresses. You want to talk about it, come to me, go to your counselor. Counselors love to talk about this stuff too. And we got some future presentations coming up. We're going to be talking about college fit and how to build a list. And yeah, that's the end of this presentation. So for those of you at home who are watching on YouTube, I thank you for your attention and presence, and I hope that you all follow your joy. That is the takeaway. Follow your joy, and it will get you to where you need to go. And so I will say goodbye to those at home, and we will start our Q&A.